Beautiful. The other room is joining back with us. So I hope the other room's conversation was great and fabulous. Dawn did a great job, and I'm sure Therese and Bonnie did a great job too. Let's give a round of applause just collectively, everyone in the room. Our little golf claps. All right, beautiful. So now before we move on to session 3, again, I just want to emphasize to check out the raffle. The raffle will end at 12 o'clock. So if everyone just wants to take a minute or so to look at the raffle, look at the beautiful baskets, put some bids in, I would greatly appreciate it. So I'm just going to give a moment of pause. You can have a sip of coffee before we move on to session 3. Jeremy, if you want to do another special shout out for the gold sponsors, just so they get credit where credit is due.
Yes, absolutely. Again, our gold sponsors are our very own Kathrine Dwyer. So I just want to not only acknowledge that, but acknowledge how much hard work she's put into this. This has been her baby. And she's very modest with sharing credit. I know a lot of people had a hand in it, but this was really her baby, and she did a wonderful job with that. And our other gold sponsor, New Jersey Natural Gas. So thank you again for the support and enabling us to do these things.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jeremy, my co-chair. Right, beautiful. All right, so session 3 is our influence topic. Session 3 includes leaders are, and that will be the topic with me for room 1. And then room 2 will be measuring impact with Paula. So just bear with me, everyone, when I reset the breakout rooms so we don't end up in random rooms. And then we will be able to move forward to session 3. Again, room 1 is with me, and I will be talking about what leaders are. And room 2 is measuring impact with Paula. So good morning, everyone. We are transitioning to session 3, and session 3 is titled Leaders Are. So first, I'm going to hit the 5 W questions to make sure we, go through who, what, when, where, why. And then I'm going to give you a little analogy this morning of what I use to describe a leader. So the first question, who is a leader? I believe we're all leaders in our own way. Leaders are not just a title. We, demonstrate that from the inside. You take leadership to what you do, how you act, who you are, etc., and so forth. Leaders are self-aware, we're professional, we're impactful. We share our lessons of experience. Ironically, those are all the titles of the subsections of today, but I think that ties into all the different components we've offered thus far for these opportunities, for these breakout sessions. What is considered a leader? Leaders are responsible. Leaders are knowledgeable. Leaders are kind. Leaders are compassionate. All these adjectives go a long way. You use these descriptor words in your everyday life for many different aspects of life, but I truly believe that these adjectives describe what a leader is. I am just going through some questions first, and then I will jump into my slides after, because those are just the components of everything that I'm talking. I felt like these impactful statements were important to emphasize first, and then I'll dive into more of a fun aspect as to what leaders are. When can you be a leader? You can always be a leader. You can be a leader at work. You can be a leader at home. You could be a leader at the grocery store. You could be a leader anywhere. Leaders always say what needs to be said. You need to provide encouraging words. You demonstrate compassion, leadership, and experience. Where can one display these leadership skills? Leaders get in front. They take charge. They stand out, and they stand up. That's just something I want you guys to sink in for a second. I thought that was crucial for this point. Again, leadership is anywhere. Leadership provides you direction towards your path of success. Lastly, why should you be a leader? Leaders are important. I feel that leaders are, in essence, kind of like my famous brownies that I make at work. So I'm going to share my screen now and then go into my presentation to have some visual aids to all of this. It's always fun to do this on the screen slideshow. So again, we're talking about the topic of leaders are. So I am very famous for making brownies at work. My brownie components include cookie dough, Oreo, brownie mix, as well as, the baking cups. For the cookie dough, I find the cookie dough as the foundation of this entire brownie. The foundation of anything in life, especially when it comes to leadership, is a crucial component to your base. If your base is not strong, you can't move forward with your success. In essence, if the cookie crumbles, you can't move forward towards your goals that you wish to be reached. Moving forward, I like using double stuffed Oreos, also known as the cement. With the cement, I think you have to cement your legacy, know your purpose, and use that, component of moving from the base towards the cement, having those two components together. You're developing your teamwork as well. The cementing component is the building blocks to your foundation to help you move forward and more above to go towards your success and your future goals. Then we have the Supreme Triple Chunk Brownie Mix, also known as the Peak. With the Peak, you have to be loyal, you have to be kind, you have to be a role model. I know it's a silly term, but be the leader that everyone wants to be looking up to. Be the leader, not the follower. And then lastly, we have, Reynolds Wrap baking cups, also known as the glue. With the glue, we have to have each other's backs. We have to support each other's businesses. We have to support each other on a personal level. You have to be able to, take all of these components to now have a very nice, warm, homemade brownie, which is a heart attack waiting to happen. But, if you add all these four components combined and take my, foundation, cement, peak, and glue, you've established what a true leader should be, what a true leader is, and how you always have room for, the margin of error or the room to grow within, this delicious treat. So that's my main portion of, this conversation. I wanted to leave, ample room for questions and comments, but I also wanted to make you guys a little hungry before lunch hour. So if anyone has any questions, you can raise your hands, or what questions do you have? Yes, Sherilyn.
I want to just compliment you on all the visual, and you did make us hungry, but I like how you make you think about that and the visual with that. That was really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Anybody else in the room? Yes, Jerry. Your hand kind of disappeared with the background. That was pretty funny.
I know, it's weird, right? So I just wanted to know, I guess, what made you decide to lead, and how do you apply that at work?
Good question. I would have to give the credit where credit is due for being a leader, and that would come mostly from my parents. Mom's on the call and dad's somewhere around the house, but I definitely give them all the credit to, raising me properly and always wanting to achieve more and more. Also, quick shout out to my grandparents for being a great influence. You always want to be a leader. You always want to be the kid who's followed. You don't necessarily, have to be like, oh, I want to be like that Dwyer kid. But that was always something in school that I took pride in. Like the teacher always, used us as an example, or wanted to use our work, or wanted to, give kudos to the one kid in the room. And I think, leading the way, especially being the oldest child, I think I have that a little bit more naturally than the next person, but I want to be the example for my siblings. I want to be the example for my friends. I want to be the example for the next person at work. In work, I am actually the youngest person in the office, which, has the difficulties and positivities within the workplace. But at the end of the day, one of the gentlemen that I work with who's been there for the office for 20 years says that you young kids teach me something new every day, which I think is important, that, you know, you take your lessons of experience, you teach the next person, you demonstrate your leadership skills, and you own those leadership skills for what you do in a living, how you act in the grocery store, how you act when you're out with your friends. There's different aspects collectively, which I think, you know, should show what a leader is.
That's awesome. I think that that's invaluable to make sure that, you know, you're being consistent all the way through too.
Yes, agreed. Anybody else? Oh, Anne has her hand raised.
You know, you made some great points. I just want to highlight, taking me back to my school days, you just made learning fun. As the pictures you presented, yes, it makes us all hungry, but learn something and it was fun. And that's a lot of what learning is about. It should be fun. If your mother is on this presentation, kudos to your mom and your dad. I think an amazing young woman. And also at your age, you know, just your thought process. I look back to when I was your age and, you know, again, it's just what you have to offer and you're sharing it. And I think that's what I'm trying to do going forward. Everyone is a gift. You're sharing a lot right now, and you've got so much to look forward to going down the road. So just thank you for all of that.
Thanks, Anne. Sherilyn, you have your hand raised.
Because I, you know, I don't want to dominate too much, but since it looks like that nobody else had their hand up, I just want to piggyback further on what you were saying and about the leadership. You know, I find that sometimes I hear, oh, you're too kind, and that's not a good, strong leadership trait. I completely disagree. You want to expand on that a little bit?
So just one more time.
Just what are your thoughts on that? Just expand on it. I think you're doing a great job for one. I think this whole leadership, you putting this together, and the points that you brought up from communication, from the weaknesses, the strength, all that. And now you doing this part about leadership, but you did bring up something about, you know, and we talked about it, empathy and kindness. How do you feel when people come back at you? And I've heard that too. Kindness is not about being a leader or a good manager. What are your thoughts on that?
So that's a loaded question, which I'm sure I could do a whole presentation on. I appreciate the kindness. At the end of the day, I think, you know, feedback is great and you have to take feedback to heart. But sometimes for me personally, I take that feedback and I'm like, what can I do better next time? Even if it's all positive, I always want to hear, you know, not critical, but the negative comments. If there are any, I'd rather hear the, you know, the appropriate feedback so I could be better the next time, just to be sure that, you know, at the end of the day, I can always grow with being a leader, not just stand where I still am.
Exactly. And I think it's the feedback, and you just mentioned that, and that's important, but it's also in the delivery and how people manage and how they give that feedback. So,
yep.
Great.
I think there is a question in the chat. So what attributes do you look for in a leader that you want to follow? So I think at the end of the day, I went to school at Seton Hall, and I had this one professor who was a great influence to me. My first day of school, when I had him in class, I sat in the front row. I thought, you know, let me be a little bit of a teacher's pet. I heard this guy has quite the reputation. He comes up square in my face and goes, "Are you an introvert or an extrovert?" And I said, "No, I'm an extrovert." And he goes, "We'll see how that works. I might break you by the end of the semester." So that was a little bit intimidating, but I wanted to prove him wrong. And I ended up with an A, which I was like one of the few kids who ended up with an A in that class. But I wanted to, you know, take that challenge, use that to become a better person, student, leader, and then use that in the future, because I took his class again, just to be sure that I can do it all over in a different environment. So that's, I like how my mom's watching the entire time and laughing at my performance. My sister is also on the call, everyone. She's one of the few college kids in the room. Just a quick shout out to her. But I think that's pretty great. I think I'm almost out of time, and I didn't really give the warning to the other room. So if anyone has any other questions or components, I'll just check in with the other room just to be sure. I think Tara was waving her hand at me at one point.
I just have a comment. I had the pleasure of meeting your mom, and I'm telling you, You are destined for greatness, and your parents did a wonderful job. Keep up the great work, Kathrine. You're just an amazing woman. You really are. We're very
thank you.
proud of you here at the Chamber.
We are. We are.
Thank you. Beautiful. I'm just checking in.
I'll let Katie go to her to ability to chat. So I just think actually it's funny because it's funny being the parent actually and watching your child perform. So I am glad I did a good job, and I don't take full credit for that. I do take credit for the fact that you learn as you go along. So having 4 kids, I think I got better as I went down the road. But I do think actually like one of the things about feedback and asking for feedback, that's always a challenge for people. You know, and I think that that's really important. No matter how hard it is for you to say to someone, you know, tell me really how things are. It is important to get that and to ask that question, because you're never going to learn. The way that you think of something sometimes is not the way that somebody else sees it. So it's important for you to be open to that. And even if you don't agree with the feedback, you know, be willing to listen.
Right. And just to mention something on that, I think what I was going with that question is that in your delivery, if you don't appropriately and not, you can be compassionate, you can be kind, is what I'm saying, is that otherwise managers that don't do that, the people, they're just turning them off. They're not even listening. And I think that's where I was going with that question, because, you know, that's really important, but people are listening. And if you're just coming at them, are they really even listening?
Right.
So
Agree.
Cool.